Every so often we meet someone that we just know we have to have as a guest on our podcast. The incredible Sam Horn is one of those people. We met Sam over in America, and her insightfulness at drilling straight to the nub of what you're trying to say and giving you a much clearer, more powerful, succinct message to go out into the world with is simply amazing.
Sam is a best-selling author, branding consultant, speaker, literary festival organiser and an all-around communication genius. In this episode, we talk about her work fostering better communication, the art and science of writing a book, and she gets us to commit to writing our own. We know you're going to love this. Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors podcast with me, James.
And me, Claire. We were actually just discussing what we were going to tell you, what we've been up to. But actually, because we're recording a lot of podcasts at this moment in time, we haven't really got very much
out of sync, aren't we?
We haven't got very much to update you on. You know, sounds a little bit boring, really. But yeah.
We're DJing on Saturday.
We are DJing on Saturday. That's very exciting. On your birthday.
On my birthday.
This is what James decided to do on his birthday, so who am I to argue? But we do have lots of fun DJing together.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's a daytime thing though. Let's just be very clear.
Yes. We'll be tucked up in bed nice and early.
No, we're tucked up in bed by 9 o'clock still.
We are so excited for this podcast. We've got an amazing guest. So as you know, recently we went off to the US and travelled around. I had the opportunity to go to like this amazing summit called Mindshare, where we met fantastic people. And one of those fantastic people is our guest today. So without further ado, I'm introducing Sam Horn, the CEO of Intrigue Agency. She's worked with hundreds of organizations globally. She's a best-selling author, speaker, branding expert, so many strings to your boat. Welcome.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to sharing some stories and insights with your community.
You've had a lot.
You here.
I just need to say, you know, we both listened to you speak at Mindshare, and I know James had a separate session with you, and I was very jealous about that.
You were trying to get in.
I was trying to get in. But I just, you know, Sam, you're just so, I just have to say, you are so inspiring, because I haven't had an opportunity to say this directly to you. You know, just so much of what you said resonates, and I just watched you up there and I thought, my goodness, if I could ever be half the speaker that lady is. You're so inspiring, and it gives me something to aim for. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, Richard Branson said, time is the new money. And I think that time is the new trust. So if we're speaking or writing, we hit the ground running. So people think, this is going to be a good use of my time. And off we go.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Exactly.
So Sam, you're a leading expert in so many like related fields: communication, writing, branding. You're an author, speaker, consultant. How did you start your journey into the creative industries?
You know, I'll always be grateful because I helped start and run the Maui Writers Conference. What CAN is to the film industry, we were to the publishing industry. And I will always remember our first day of our first conference. We gave people from around the world an opportunity to pitch to top decision makers. You could actually pitch your screenplay to Ron Howard. You could pitch your novel to the head of Simon & Schuster. And a woman came out of her pitch session with tears in her eyes. And I went over, I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "I'm not okay." I said, "What's going on?" She said, "I put my 300-page manuscript on the table. The agent took one look at it, said, I don't have time to read all that. Tell me in 60 seconds why someone would want to read this book." And I realized that in today's fast-paced world, you know, the clock starts ticking the second we start talking, and we better hit the ground running, or otherwise they're off to do something else. So I help people, you know, what do you do in 60 seconds? What's your book about in 60 seconds? Tell me about your company, 60 seconds. And that way people's eyebrows go up and they want to keep listening instead of bye-bye.
Well, Well, you did that at Mindshare with the whole group, didn't you? And you know, you took us through a process that I have to say it was so uncomfortable but so good. You know, it's actually being outside your comfort zone, and the way you told us to do that was a way that I'd never heard anyone make us think about it before. It was so helpful, and then we obviously got to practice it with other people in the room. And yeah, so I can vouch for the fact that it really works the way that you pitched that.
You know, now think about it. We all get asked the question, what do you do? Whether we like it or not, we're going to be asked it. And so do we have time? I'll tell a quick story about how to do it a different way that actually leads to meaningful
Yes.
conversations.
Yes,
Yeah,
do it,
absolutely.
Sam, do it.
So haven't we been told when people say, what do you do? I help blank do blank. That's a lecture. Do you know anyone who likes listening to a lecture? So here's the story, and then we'll unpack it. So the next time we're asked that question, we can actually respond in a way that people want to keep talking instead of want to run the other direction. Sound good?
Perfect.
great.
Okay, so I'm speaking at Inc. 500. These are the top 500 organizations in the United States. And I talked to Colleen, who is Entrepreneur of the Year for her state. I say, what do you do? Wah, 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 wah. I say, okay, Colleen, I said, can we play? What do you do that we can see or smell or taste or touch? And she said something about magnetic resonating imaging and CAT scans. And my light bulb went off. I said, oh, do you run the medical facilities that offer MRIs and CAT scans? She said, yes. I said, don't tell people that. She said, what? And I said, if you tell people that, they'll go, oh, that's the end of the conversation. We don't want to end the conversation. We want to open the conversation. I said, so from now on, when people ask that, ask 3 questions. Do you know anyone, could be yourself, could be a friend, could be a family member who's had an MRI or a CAT scan? Now, they may say, well, I haven't, but my daughter has. She hurt her knee playing soccer. She had an MRI. Now, just link what you do to what they just said. Oh, I run the medical facilities that offer MRIs like the one your daughter had when she hurt her knee playing soccer. Look what happens. Oh, now they get it. Now they're familiar with it. Now they've even benefited from it. Now we're off on a meaningful conversation instead of an oh, we get an oh, we're off and running.
Yes.
I
And
love
that's
that.
Sam, that's the process you took us through. I'm so glad you shared that, because of course we had time for you to go through that, because that impacted me so much, and I have used it. You'll be very proud. I've used that at networking events since, and no one else is doing that. No one else does that, but the eyebrows go up. So thank you so much for sharing that, and also for taking us through the process in America.
You bet. And so I really hope people imprint this and they at least try it, because a lot of us are awkward. I mean, we're adults. We thought that confidence was, when we got to be 21, confidence was going to show up, right? No. I mean, there were 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds still reluctant, because they're introverts. They're uncomfortable at conferences. They hang out with who they know, or they hang out in their hotel room. So if we just, do you know anyone, could be yourself, a friend or a family member who does this, we put a sock in it, we wait until they say something, and look, now we have a dialogue in the first 60 seconds instead of a monologue. Now we have a 2-way conversation instead of a 1-way, all in the first 60 seconds, both people are talking. That's a meaningful conversation instead of an elevator speech.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that one of your many zones of genius is communication, and your books have been really about communication. Like, what inspired you to write Tong Fu, which was like about more effective communication styles?
I love this. I love the name of this book, Tongue Fu.
I was doing a program called Dealing with Difficult People Without Becoming One Yourself. And there was a gentleman in the front row. He didn't even get up to get a cup of coffee, just kind of sat there gazing off into space. And I went over, I said, what are you thinking? He said, Sam, I'm a realtor. He said, I deal with some really challenging people, and they seem to think they can treat me any way they want to. I'm tired of it. He said, I thought you were going to teach us some zingers to fire back at people and put them in their place. He said, that's not what this is about. And I said, you're right. And he said, I'm a student of martial arts. I've studied karate, taekwondo, judo. He said, what you're talking about is like a verbal form of kung fu, isn't it? You're right. It's kind of like a tongue fu. And tongue fu is martial arts for the mind and mouth. It's what to say when we don't know what to say in the character building situations we face every day.
Love
that.
That's amazing.
Do you think that, we've got social media now has become a major player in so many people's lives, and we're getting things like AI coming in now, chat robots. Do you think the way that we're communicating is changing, and how do we adapt to that?
Well, is this a rhetorical question?
Yeah.
You bet it's changing. In fact, OutSystems, which is based in Europe, hired me because their young employees are ghosting customers, right? It's because they grew up communicating with their thumbs, with emojis, right? So if it's a difficult conversation, they don't know how to handle that. So they just don't. They just lose the customer complaint slip. So that's part of what I think. We're taught math and science and history in school. We're not taught what to do when someone blames us for something that's not our fault. We're not taught what to do when someone's accusing us of something that's not true. So you're right. A lot of my books, whether it's Talking on Eggshells or Tung Fu, it is how to handle these situations. What do we say when our teenager says, I hate you? What do we say when our spouse takes out their bad day on us? Finally, we know what to say in those situations instead of just getting angry or going along to get along or just avoiding it altogether.
Just posed a question a question just came to my mind then. Why do you think people, because this is my experience, people shy away from kind of learning how to communicate effectively? Do you think, Sam, that people just think it's too hard or it's not relevant for them? Why don't people spend the time understanding how to communicate effectively?
I'm really glad you brought that up, Claire, because I actually think that most communication courses are theory. Don't let people get under your skin. Don't take it personally. Those are platitudes, right?
Yeah.
Even if we agree with it, how the heck do we do it?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a quick example of this is what I know from experience. People go, thank you. I've never known what to say in that situation. And now I do. So we can learn how to communicate if people give us actual words. Here's an example. I'm speaking at a leadership conference. A woman puts her hand up in Q&A and she says, Sam, why do you think women are so catty to each other? Well, now here's the thing. If someone makes an accusation or says something that's untrue, what do we often do? We deny it, right? We say, well, I don't think that women are catty to each other. And now look what happens. If someone says, you never listen to me, and we say, I do too listen to you. Now we're arguing with the people who think we don't listen. If someone says, you don't care about your customers, we do too care about our customers. We're arguing with our customers about, so do not deny a negative accusation. Here's the exact words to say when somebody says something that's not true or that we don't agree with. Say, what do you mean? See, if someone says you don't care about your customers, what do you mean? Well, I've left 3 messages and no one's called back. The real issue. Now we can address that instead of reacting to the attack. You never listened to me. Well, what do you mean? Well, you've had your head in the phone the last half hour. You haven't even looked up. Do you see how what do you mean helps us reveal the real issue? Now we can talk about that instead of reacting to their attack.
I love that.
That's
getting
so
really
helpful.
into the specifics of what the issue is rather than the kind of general approach of it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. A lot of the communication courses, it's all around that theory, isn't it? Like, don't take it personally. Of course we take things personally. Like, how do you help people when they are being like attacked? I say attacked, but they feel like they're being attacked by their husband, by someone at work. What would be the process you would kind of walk them through in order to manage that communication effectively so it goes in a positive direction?
Good. And this is called name the game, because if you name the game, that it neutralizes it because you're not playing the game. For example, say someone's listening and they're in an argument with their spouse. Something's gone wrong and they're taking it out on each other, right? They're sniping at each other or whatever. You ask yourself what is really going on here. And often, like, they've had a bad day and we're just taking it out on each other. And there was a woman who got in touch last week and she said, Sam, I remembered what you said about naming the game, about we've both had a bad day. Let's not take it out on each other. And I said that. I said, you know what? It's been one of those kinds of days. Let's not take it out on each other. Let's give each other space and come back together in an hour. And she said, my husband said, you know what? That's exactly what was going on, is that, I have this employee I'm going to have to fire. I'm worried about that. I got stuck in traffic on the way home. I was in a bad mood and I was just grousing, and you happened to be the person closest. So you ended up being the target of that. And it helps me come to my senses in a way that I don't want to do this. This isn't helping. This isn't solving anything. And so a code word for a couple is, let's give each other space, right? Because a lot of times when we're getting into it, if we say, let's give each other space, it's like now we come back and it's not as upsetting as it was. It's not as, we're not as irritated as we were. And now we can either talk about it objectively and in a way that resolves it, or we can say, it's not that big of a deal. Let's have a pleasant evening.
I think that's what you mean when you say, don't come near me.
Don't come near me.
Maybe I should say,
Don't come near me.
maybe I should say, darling, please give me some space.
Exactly.
Next time. But just on that whole communication thing, I do think in relationships, intimate relationships, it's a learning journey, isn't it? Because we're always really transparent about where we were at when we first started dating, 8 years ago. And we have learned how to communicate. Our styles have kind of melded and molded together so that we are able to communicate a lot better. But I think when we first start relationships, is learning different communication styles, isn't it?
Well, it is different communication styles. And once again, specific is, even though we have different communication styles, one of us is like an introvert, really needs alone time. The other is very vocal and extroverted and so forth. It's like, I believe, unless people are driving, get a piece of paper, put a vertical line down the center. Because over on the left are these trigger words. We say these words, and a lot of times we're not even aware of them, and people feel put down or shut down, and they react. So words like but. Well, I hear what you're saying, but. It's like, you did a good job on that, but. Well, I love you, but. You look good today, but. Do you see how the word but is part of our cancel culture? And if we replace it with and, it's like, I'm sorry that happened, and thanks for bringing it to my attention. It's like, I appreciate you doing that. And, I had made different plans for Friday. Do you see how the word and acknowledges what's said instead of arguing? And do we have time for a few more words?
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
I'm loving this.
Big
smile on my face, because this is practical, and that's what we want. It needs to be practical, right?
Okay. Next word is, especially with couples, guess what? 3 words. You need to, or you have to. It's like, you need to stop and get gas in the car on the way home today. It's like, you need to take the dog to the vet. You need to call your mom and let her know that we can't come over this weekend. Those words, you need to and you have to, are orders. And they take the affection out of a relationship because we feel like we're ordering each other around. Look what happens if over on the right, we just say, could you please put gas in the car on the way home? Could you please call your mom, let her know we can't. Now we're treating each other with courtesy instead of giving each other commands. And even in long-term relationships, people cooperate willingly instead of, complying reluctantly because they feel like they're being bossed around, right?
Love that.
These are practical things.
I hope you're making some notes.
Sam, James will be in touch with some of these.
No, and by the way, I can provide something to you. People can actually post this on the refrigerator. I have many people who say, Sam, you saved my marriage, because we have words to lose, words to use on a refrigerator. Now, let's talk about kids, for example. Over on the left, a woman said to me, you know, Sam, it seems like I'm always telling my kids no. She was a single mom. She had 3 kids under the age of 10. You know, Mom, can I go out and play? No, you can't, because you haven't done your chores. Mom, can I watch TV? No, you can't, because you haven't done your homework. And then she often does what's called stacking. You know the rules around here. That TV doesn't go on until that chores. How many times do I have to tell you? When are you going to start listening to me? We're off and running, right? Look what happens.
You've been
when
listening to
you
the Midlife
can't,
Mentors with
because
Claire
on
and
the
James
left,
Davis.
We'd love to hear from
you
you.
say,
So drop us
yes,
a
you
line
can,
at
as soon as you want. Yes, you can
info@themidlifementors.com
as soon as you
with
finish
any
your
questions
chores.
or
You
topic
know,
suggestions.
Take out the trash.
And make sure you join us on our
Wash
Facebook
your
page
dishes.
and YouTube channel.
Yes,
You can
watch
find us
TV
under
as
the
soon as you
Midlife
finish your
Mentors.
homework. Your math, let me have a look at it. Then you can turn on. She was the one who said, Sam, this isn't semantics. It changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. Because instead of seeing me as the one who's blocking them from what they want, guess who's now in charge of getting what it is they want?
Yeah.
I love that.
And
It's
this
kind of switching it around.
language,
Yeah.
the power of language. You know, that's why we always say, you know, spelling is, you know, it's really, really important that we've got this kind of understanding of how our language, you know, spelling creates spells, because we create spells with the words that we use, and their energy, they create energy, don't they? And everything you've just said there makes so much perfect sense when you hear it back. It's like, yeah, that's a much softer way of saying it, and giving someone responsibility over their own, that they're responsible for themselves.
See, I just love that you use the word spell, because see, words set up ripple effects, or they cast spells for good or for not good. Here's one of my favorite examples. I was visiting my son, Andrew, and we were in the living room getting caught up, and his 1-year-old son, Hero, crawled across the floor, hauled himself up on a guitar that was over in the corner, and started banging on the strings. Now, over on the left, these words and reactions that hurt instead of help, Andrew could have yanked the guitar away. He could have gotten angry and said, stop banging on the strings. He could have shouted no, all of which would have made things worse. Over on the right, Andrew said one word. Do you know what he said? Gentle. I saw Hero's face transform in front of me. And he reached back to the guitar. He went strum, strum, strum. And in that moment, Hero made music. And it was because Andrew shaped his behavior instead of shamed it. He coached him how to do it right instead of criticizing him for doing it wrong. And so Hero learned from that situation instead of losing face over that situation, because Andrew helped him be better instead of making him feel bad.
I love that.
Love that.
Gentle. It's just a lovely gentle. And that's the power of spelling. It's the power of words, isn't it? Like the effect that they have on different people's experiences.
I hope everyone listening and watching, the next time they're about to like react in the moment, say something, it's like, wait a minute. Often that is a criticism, and we're telling people what we don't want or what we don't like or what they should stop doing. That makes things worse. Ask ourselves, what do we want them to start doing? What do we want? So instead of don't interrupt me, please let me finish. Instead of stop hitting your sister, give your sister space. Instead of you better not be late again, next time be 5 minutes early. Do you see how the words we use either set up what we do want or they reinforce what we don't want, all in what we choose to say that helps instead of hurts?
Wow, such wise words there, Sam. I love it.
So-
Love it. I know people are going to get so many nuggets from this.
So amazing.
Let's shift slightly, Sam. Obviously, you're a writer yourself, and literature is a big passion for you, but also help other people like get their voice out there via books. I know some of our listeners will be thinking of writing a book, wanting to write a book, maybe have started writing. What kind of advice could you give them in the actual, I guess, the process of writing the book itself?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. I just got back from the Kauai Writers Conference, which is now one of the best writers' conference in the world. So I'll tell you a story, and I hope that anyone who's ever even thought about writing a book, or someone who actively wants to, or they're actually in the process, if they do this, it's going to expedite the whole process. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was interviewing someone. This is Sherry Salata. Sherry was actually executive producer for the Oprah show for years, and she ran Harpo and Own. So in the middle of the interview, Sherry said something. She said almost casually, well, if I ever write a book, I know what I'm going to call it. I said, what? She said, I did everything all wrong, and it turned out all right. Boom. That's a mic drop moment, but that wasn't what the interview was about. So we continued. At break, though, I went up to her and said, Sherry, tell me you're writing that book. And now she said what many people say. She said, Sam, I don't know where to start. I mean, do I start with delivering a baby in a 7-Eleven parking lot? Do I start with Oprah's birthday party with Chris Rock and Beyonce and Michael Jordan? And so do we have time for like a 3-minute exercise right
Yes,
now?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
people, okay, because we're going to storyboard your book. So everyone get a fresh piece of paper right now. In the upper left-hand corner, put the word, or put 200, just put 200. We're going to
Let's do it, let's do it.
presuppose this book is 200 pages, not 350, not Harry Potter 650, not a door stopper, not a Who Moved My Cheese 100, 200 pages. Now underneath it, put 10. All right. Let's presuppose no chapter is longer than 10 pages, because did you ever read the book Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown by any
Yes.
chance? Okay, now Dan Brown admitted himself it wasn't a particularly well-written book. He said, but he understood something that's called the psychology of completion. And the psychology of completion, if you're reading a 30-page chapter, gosh, it seems to go on forever. You put it down, who knows if you come back, because it feels like you're not making any progress. It's hard work. So he was the first mainstream author to have like 3-page chapters, and every chapter was a page turner. He said page turners aren't accidental, they're intentional. At the end of every chapter, he'd say something like, he opened the door and there was the last person he expected to see. How are you not going to turn the page, right? Mm-hmm. So promise yourself right now, no chapter is longer than 10 pages. Set up psychology of completion, right? All right, now do the math. We got a 200-page book, 10 chapters. How many chapters do we have?
20.
You got it. Boom. Right on your notes. Draw 4 rows of 5 boxes. So top row, 5 boxes across. Second row, 5 boxes across. Third row, 5. Okay. Now,
I like this. This is very clever.
Okay. Now, okay, Claire James, you want to actually storyboard your book right now? Just we'll take
let's do it.
All right. Now, in the first box, that's your intro. You're going to start with where. Don't start with why. Good for Simon Sinek, made a difference for a lot of people. I think if we start with why we wrote a book, it's often generic. Well, I think it's important. Well, I want to make, everyone wants to do that. That's not singular, that's generic. The genius is in where. Put us where you became a person on a mission on this book. Put us where you decided enough, this shouldn't be happening. I'm going to write a book that tells people how to do it differently. Where you decided, that I haven't ever seen a book on this topic, and I know people could. So put us where. That's your first chapter. Now I'm going to ask you, put me in turning point stories. Where you had an epiphany, where you decided to do something different, where you switched careers, where you decided to leave a relationship, where you decided to quit a job, where you decided to launch your show. Now, so I'm going to ask you right now, so do you already kind of have an idea of what you want to write about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Tell me, what's your working title for your book?
Midlife Reset.
Good.
How to.
Well, we're still working
on that bit.
But the midlife reset.
Okay. Okay. Over, you know me in juxtaposing, right? Okay. Vertical line down the center. Put revert over on the right, or regress? Put revert and regress, and put reset over on the right, right? So see, on the left, here are my questions for you. Then we're going to do the chapters. What are the beliefs and the behaviors that cause us to revert to our old habits or patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the attitudes and the actions that cause us to regress to what we used to do, to what our automatic pilot is? Now, over on the right, what are the beliefs and the behaviors that cause us to reset, right? So I'm just going to ask you right now. So what is one of the beliefs or one of the behaviors that causes us to revert, to regress? What?
I'm too old to change.
Okay, write it down. This is a new chapter now. I'm too old to change. Now, by the way, I already see, do you see how all of your chapters are going to have what I call dialogue titles? What
Right.
do people, what do you hear on your podcast? Well, I'm too old to change. Yeah, I tried that once, but it didn't work. It's like, I'm so busy, it's like all I can do is just put one foot in front of another, So do you see how those are actually chapter titles? You would put us in the scene of someone who says that, who believes that, and then you would tell a success story of someone who has reversed that, someone who has reset that, correct? All right.
Yes.
I'm too old to change is one. Next one. What's the next one?
Next one.
I was still making notes there.
I'll do one. I'll do another one. I'm just not a motivated person.
Okay, I'm just not a motivated person. All right, good. All right, next one.
I don't have time.
I don't have time. Actually, good. Put that one down. All right. How about another one?
I don't know where to start.
I don't know where to start. Look, that's the Sherry Salata question, right?
Yes.
Now, right now, do you see how we're just spitballing, right? We're just coming up with it. There's no sequence. We're not forcing it to be linear, which is another reason why people don't write their book. They don't know the format yet. They don't know, is this going to be steps? Is this going to be right? And if they don't know where to start, they don't start. So do you see how when we step back, though, and when you spitball at least 10 or 12 of these, then you step back and then you say, well, that would probably be the first chapter, right? Because I don't know where to start. Ought to be the start of this book, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay,
Sam, I'm pointing to James. It would be lovely, darling. I'm trying to communicate with you in an
writing as fast as I can.
in an effective way, darling. It would be lovely if you could write these things down.
Good. Okay, so I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't know where to start. It's like I'm too old to change, and some others. And now start thinking, what is the pushback? What is the resistance? Why do people tell you this is not an option for them?
I don't believe I can do it.
I don't believe I can do it.
Lack of self-worth.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome.
Huh?
Negative self-talk.
I'm afraid of change, right?
I'm afraid to change.
Change is hard.
Change is hard. Yeah, right. Okay.
Mm.
All right. Now, here, as a writer now, and please write this down, my life is my lab.
My life is my lab.
From now on, the two of you are going to start keeping track of these phrases, these pushback phrases, these cynic, these skeptic, these naysayer phrases, right? Because I believe they are the answer to the test. If in a book, you look at the table of contents and we're talking about midlife conversations and reset, etc. If we don't voice this, people won't do this, right? Because internally they got their arms crossed, right? Well, yeah, it'll work for so-and-so. It won't work for me. I don't have time. I'm too busy. I hate change. It's like, I don't know where to start. So do you see how when you have your table of contents and you're marketing like this, people are internally in a face-saving way going, oh my goodness, that's exactly how I feel. Now the bridge is, what if, right? What if change didn't have to be hard? What if you did know where to start? What if this was actually energizing instead of depleting? What if, even though you think you don't have time, there's a way to find time in a way that's a win for you, right? So do you see how now you start over on the left with all the resistance, all the pushback, and the bridge is what if? Now the two of you, and I know you have this, you start looking for your success stories. You start looking for someone who gets in touch with you after a podcast and says, I'm so glad you said that, because that's how I always used to feel. That's what I always used to say to myself. And then when you interviewed that person who said, I'm not an athlete, and now they're doing triathlons, you know, when you interviewed that person who went through a divorce and thought she would never find someone again, you know, when you interviewed that person who didn't have a college degree, and so she thought, you know, that she wasn't smart enough to get a good paying job, right? You just start looking for success stories, true stories, because that's when we start believing this isn't hype. This isn't made up. This isn't like, you know, no, these people have faced the same obstacles you have. They used to think and believe the same thing you did. And this is one thing they did different, one thing they shifted, one thing they reset. And look at where they are now. Look at how happy they are. Look at how in love they are. Look at how they feel good about themselves. Look at how they changed their body, etc. So let me stop talking. What is your mind doing right now?
I'm getting very excited.
Really excited, because actually here's the thing, we have written like a skeleton outline of a book before, and it's not felt right. We didn't know where to start, so we started somewhere. We've done it. And so this is a very, very different way
to approach it
that actually feels really authentic, actually, and not preachy. Because I think that's a little bit where I've been concerned, is that the book is giving do this, do this, do this, do this, rather than let's meet you where you're at with the resistance you have, and really understand you and really make you feel like you're not alone in that, and show you the light of other people's journeys. So I love this. I absolutely love this.
Okay. And now I know you're recording this. See, if we're working together as a client, it's almost become like Tourette syndrome. When someone says gold, I say, are you recording this, right? Because do you see how that would go? That would go in the intro of your book. You would say, you know, we've been talking about this. We've been speaking about this. We have programs about this. And we knew we wanted to write a book. And for some reason, we would look at it and it just felt too preachy. It felt like a listicle of to-dos. It felt a little lecture-y. Do this, do this, do this. And sometimes that often feels like it comes from arrogance. And people say that's impossible. It's like, I don't have it perfect. Who am I to write this book? You know, like, it's like I'm putting myself up on a pedestal and we got it all figured out. And we're going to tell you what to do. The sage on the stage, kind of arrogance, ego. And I already know that's, you two are not there. So over on, juxtapose this, put a vertical line down the center. Over on the left, put ego, arrogance. Over on the right, put offering, service.
Oh, Sam, I love this one.
This is not coming from ego. This is an offering. You're not saying we're perfect, we got it figured out. We're saying, here's some things we've learned along the way. Here's some stories that we've heard. Do you hear and feel how that is coming from service, not arrogance?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's so driven by absolutely ego, but underneath that, it's like an imposter syndrome, isn't it, that we all experience, which is, I have to tell people exactly why we're qualified to talk to you about this, and we're going to get as much of our scientific research out there. I mean, obviously at Mindshare, that everyone's doctors, everyone's in it, so that's how we all position ourselves, you know, like smart, we want to showcase what we know, our qualifications. And that's what you end up getting tied up in, isn't it? Rather than offering and being of service. It's so true.
I get to, and once again, for anyone who's listening, even if you thought, well, I never thought about writing a book, maybe you want to write a memoir, even if it's just for your family, so they know what you've been through, or they know about this, is that once again, maybe you're not the world's expert in something. Maybe you've been through some hard times though. And maybe by offering some of how you were able to persevere in the face of all that, maybe that would be a light in the dark out to someone who's going through that right now. So I get to tell one of my favorite stories. Is the first year of the Maui Writers Conference, I was the MC as well as the executive director. So I would go out on the beach in the morning to get my intros straight for the day. Here's a woman crying. And I went over, I said, "Are you okay?" You know what she said? "I don't belong here." I said, "You don't belong here?" She said, "Who am I to write a book?" She said, "It's like, I'm not perfect. I don't have an MBA, an MFA, it's just like, I'm not sure I can do this." And I asked her what I'm going to ask everyone listening and watching. I said, "What is an example of what you want to write about?" And she wanted to write about, she and her husband had adopted a child, and it was very challenging. And she said, "I went to the library. I went to the bookstore to try and find a book to help. And there are all these Pollyanna books about what a blessing it is to be an adoptive parent. They made me feel worse." She said, "I want to write the book I need, I can't find." And I said, "Well, what's an example of what you want to write about?" And she said, "I want to write about the time that Ari was 3 years old and I fixed spaghetti for dinner. And he reaches across the table and he grabs a handful of spaghetti and he throws it in my face. And my first thought was, my son would never have done that." And the shame that I felt that that thought had even occurred to me. And I said, "What else?" She said, "I want to write about, though, even Ari is challenging when it's time to send pictures of Ari to his birth mother. I edit out the cute ones because I live in daily fear she's going to change her mind and want him back."
Oh,
And I said, "Janet,
Goodness.
the question to ask is not, am I perfect? Do I have an MBA? Do I have you know what the question to ask is? Would someone reading my book benefit? Because if someone reading your book will benefit, not only do you have the right to write, you have a responsibility to write. Now, if people go online and they look up Secret Thoughts of an Adoptive Mother by Jana Wolf, that book has been out in the world making a difference for people around the world for 20 years. And I ran into Jana a couple years ago when I was speaking in Hawaii. And she said, "Sam, not a week goes by that I don't get an email from somebody that says, 'Thank you for writing that book. I thought I was the only one.'"
Well, Sam, that makes
That's really powerful.
it really, it's very emotional, isn't it? To think that yeah. And there are so many of us out there, aren't there? And it's coming, it's rather than in service, just that ego and that fear, rather than, I suppose it's kind of that whole fear on love, isn't it? Like, am I sitting here in fear of all the things that could go wrong, or how I can't get started, or am I coming from a place of love and service? In which case, if I just focus on that, then I've got to trust that it will flow in the right way.
And you know what? It's both, right? There's a craft. It's like when I work with clients or audiences, like that storyboarding craft, that is tangible, right? For people who don't know where to start, people who say, "Well, I don't know what I would talk about." It kickstarts that process. Oh, okay, I'm going to have 20 chapters. Each chapter is going to be 10 pages or less. Here is a sample table of contents. Now, is that one of the biggest epiphanies I've had in 30 years of helping people with their books. Please write this down. Writing is not done at a desk, right? Because see, many of us think, I don't have time to write. Gee, as I work all day, 7 days a week, whatever. See, but we don't wait for spare time to write, because how many of us have spare time? So we carry a notebook with us. When I'm on the beach, I've got a notebook with me. and maybe you're a digital person, etc. So get Otter or Evernote or something like that. It's just that if you have this and you're sitting and waiting at a doctor's office, or you're on a plane, or you're out for a run or a walk or on the treadmill, you can say, okay, today we're going to talk about change is hard. And the two of you go out for a run and you've got your recorder on and say, so why do people think change is hard? So who's a client of ours who told us change was hard?
That's
Who is someone we
right.
know who used to think this, etc. Talk, 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 talk. Now ask the W's about it. So who is an example of this? Why do we do this? If it's important, why don't we do this? How can we do this, etc. Who is someone we know who used to think that way and is now changed? So do you see, you come back from that walk and boom, you've talked out a chapter. It's in your voice. It's got I see the banter between you two. I see the honesty, the little quips, the little like, oh, well, that happened yesterday. So it's alive. You see how you're not slogging along, writing in your head,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
disembodied. The two of you are on fire. Your personality is there. Your lovely kind of a regard for each other is on the page. So you set that aside. Now, you do not reread that, because if you reread that, you'll end up reworking that. Oh, we should change this. Oh,
Yes.
now we're
That's me. That's me.
Yeah.
right. That's the critical mode, not the creative mode, right? In the beginning, it's produce, 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 produce. Stay in that creative mode. Next time you go on a walk, say, oh, okay, well, let's talk about this chapter about, it's, I don't have time. Let's talk about this chapter is like, I am afraid, what if it doesn't work or something? And now, guess what? With 20 chapters in 20 days, with just the two of you talking it out, you probably will have made more progress in 20 days than in 20 months, because now you look at this and you say, it's us on the page. It's our personality, it's our relationship, it's our insights, it's our concerns, it's our worries, it's our cares, etc. And it's all in this offering kind of stage, not I'm the expert, I know and you don't, and I'm going to preach or teach. No, it's like, and we had someone who thought that too. We had someone who, look at what she's doing now, and the book is alive because it's you two captured.
I love that,
I love
Sam. What an amazing concept, actually. That would never have occurred to me, that you just go out and chat about it, because we chat about this all the time because we love what we do. We do all this conversation all the time. So actually it becoming chapters, that's an amazing idea. Thank
Really
you.
is.
Thank you.
Talk about this for hours. I guess writing the book is one thing, but then getting it out there and cutting through the noise is another. And obviously there are routes now. You can either go, I guess what we call the old traditional route of querying and going with a publisher, or self-publishing. How do people navigate that kind of space and get their voice heard once they've actually produced the book?
Well, I have a whole process on that. It's the control grid. C is always outside distribution, etc. These days, it used to be that if you self-published, it was considered vanity press. It's like, oh, you couldn't get a deal, so you had to resort to self-publishing. Well, Terry Jones, who's the founder of Travelocity, is a client, and he elected to self-publish because he likes control and autonomy. He wanted his own timeline. He wanted his cover. He wanted to be able to customize the book for speaking clients, etc. So as you know, there's kind of three options. There's self-publishing, there's hybrid, which is where you work with someone and you pay them. It's a pay to play. And then there's getting an agent and an editor. But here's the thing. If time is an issue, then even if we put together a proposal right now, even if we were able to get an agent, and they're going to want to know your platform, how many followers do you have, how famous are you, etc. Even if we were able to get an agent, then they would want a proposal to go and pitch it. Even if you did get a deal, it'd be a minimum of 12 months after that. So we're talking a minimum of 18 months. A lot of people, they don't want to wait 18 months. A lot of people, they don't have the platform to convince someone to pay them. So I believe these days that self-publishing and hybrid are viable options because you control the process and the timeline and the quality. Now, here's the good news. is that it used to be, if you self-published, traditional publishers would not talk to you. Go away. You know what they care about? The bottom line. And the bottom line is 10,000 books. And if you self-publish or work with a hybrid and your book sells a minimum of 10,000 copies, you now can go to publishers and say, hey, we've got this book. It's getting great press. Look at the, look at the people we have in our online programs, or look at the reviews, or look at the sales. And they will consider it because what they care about is a viable book that's going to help them make money. So you do not abdicate the opportunity to get a traditional publisher if you go with hybrid or with self-publishing.
Right.
Interesting.
That's really,
Really
because you are right. I mean, like back in the day, if you self-published, it was kind of like, oh, that's a bit embarrassing. You've done it because you can't get this. But yeah, I know that shifted. And I think that's a really good thing, because if you do want control, like you said, you can tailor it to different audiences if you need to. Good.
And sometimes, and if, see, in this matrix of, T is for time. Maybe someone's got a TEDx talk coming out. Well, if they're speaking in May, they could have a quality book out in May to come out in conjunction with their TEDx talks. So they're leveraging that instead of saying, yeah, I have a book coming out in a year, which means they drop the ball of that opportunity. So once again, I'm not advocating to do it. What I'm saying is look at the 3 options, figure out what your goals are, what you want, because certainly there are advantages. All of my books are with traditional publishers. Why I choose to do that is because I've got great publishers and they help market the book, etc. And they do get a lot of foreign sales. My book, Tung Fu, which is with St. Martin's Press, is selling 25 years after it was first published. It was number 3 in South Korea a few years ago. It's in 17 languages. Now, see, I couldn't have done that on my own. So that's why I traditionally publish. However, I know that when I get a deal, like, for some day is not a day in the week, I was on my year by the water. So see, I kept on my year by the water speaking and coaching, and I knew it was going to be another year before my book came out. However, my income wasn't reliant on that book coming out because I was, I had sources of income, and my career was not held in limbo because it was going to be another year before I had a big idea out in the world.
Love that. Love that. Sam, I mean, we've covered so much then. We could talk for hours and hours.
I don't want to let you go, Sam, but I know we have to.
We have to. Sadly. Listen, if people wanted to find out more about you, reach out to you, where can they do that? Where's the best place to find you?
There's 2 places. It's real easy. They're welcome to go to my website, which is easy, Sam, S-A-M, Horn, HORN.com. And I've got 3 TEDx's there on there, about my different books and my speaking schedule, etc., in case I'm going to be in your area. And I also hope that people follow me on LinkedIn. And the reason is because I'm a writer. And my life is my lab. And if I go out on this stream trail today and I get an idea, I'm going to write about it. So whether it's about relationships, or whether it's about branding, or whether it's about coming up with a perfect title for your product or your program, I write about that a lot on LinkedIn. And it's a joy to connect with people there.
Oh, fantastic.
Sam,
thank you so much. It's been fantastic speaking to you.
I mean, selfishly,
can't wait to get started on our book
selfishly now. Sorry listeners, but that's been all pretty that's been amazing for us with our book. But I know that so many people will get so much from this podcast, and we really honor your time. Thank you so much for we know how busy you are, Sam. So we're very, very blessed that you've taken the time to come on our podcast and be with us. So thank you very, very much.
Can we wrap up with a quote and a promise?
Absolutely.
One of the quotes in the Someday Is Not a Day in the Week book is from Rene Ricard, and he said, "Tomorrow is another day, but so is yesterday." And if it's not on the calendar, it's not getting done. So I'm looking at the 2 of you. What is a date on the calendar where you're going to have a launch party for your book and you're going to be getting it out in the world?
Where's your phone?
Wow. Let's get it in the first quarter of 2024. I reckon.
I was going to say. So all listeners, you are this
January, February, March, sometime.
I was going to say April.
Okay.
Spring. I was going to say
one of us is slightly more conservative than the other.
I'm always slightly more conservative.
Okay, now, April, do you guys a birthday in April, an anniversary, a special day in April? And here's why.
We do in May.
Okay. Here's the thing. I believe in combining and blending personal and professional. So do you see if there's an anniversary, if there's a birthday, and you have your book launch day the same day as that, and you see a launch party where you got your friends and your family, it's very celebratory, you know, do you see how it just elevates this project and make it more personally rewarding in a way you always remember it? It is, you know, you're not just marketing it out in the world and stuff. No. This is a day in your life. You will always look back on this day where you kept your promise to each other and you got your legacy work out in the world where it's going to be making a difference for people for years to come. So what's the day?
Does it have to be a weekday or a weekend? See,
Claire gets very detail orientated.
This is me, a Virgo. James is a Sagittarius, so you're asking the wrong person. I'm going to say May the 18th.
Okay, circle it, star it. Okay, everyone watching and listening now in a friendly way, say, how's that? Okay, where's your book launch going to be on May 18th? Because I want to be there. If it's virtual, I want to. Okay,
Sam. We've actually said that out loud now. It's out there in the world. We are going to get lots of messages.
Well, we'll think about a venue. Maybe Austin.
Yes, maybe we'll come over.
if you come to Austin, you know, we'll have a party. It'll be fun. It'll be inside you've heard of inside the actor studio. This is inside the author studio. We not only interview you, there are questions so that the audience has meaningful conversations. They genuinely correct around this. They contribute their own midlife epiphanies and resets and so forth. It's a rising tide event that's just a joy for all involved.
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic.
That would be amazing. Would be amazing.
We are. We've got a target. Let's do it.
Let's do a fist pump, mister.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for your time. You're
just wonderful.
So inspiring.
And the impact you had on us at Mindshare, I'm just very, very blessed that you're here and everyone else can share your wisdom. So thank you. And we'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Right on.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
Yeah. We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under The Midlife Mentors. Yeah.